Hello, chaps and chapettes. I thought what I would do today is something a little different, and that is a video where I just talk about something. Once in a while, I do a video where I just talk, and much to my surprise, because I don't find myself that interesting, but much to my surprise, people often say they really like those videos. So here we go. I thought we would talk about today is advice for new fountain pen users. I have done a video on first fountain pen options, I think, but that is many years ago. And this is a question that I get really, really regularly. So I thought if I do a video, then I can refer people to the video, and that might be efficient for everyone. Anyway, advice for new fountain pen users, and this is really an invitation to leave any types of comments, advice you have on this video, because people who are watching this can then read the comments and they may get more ideas, right? So, let's get started. Like a bantha. Anyway, the first thing I would say when you're starting out with fountain pens, you're considering buying a fountain pen, is good idea, right? We are fountain pen users, and we like fountain pens, so clearly good idea to use a fountain pen. Ask yourself what it is you would like. Now that's a very difficult question to answer, because if you're starting out in the world of fountain pens, you will be bombarded with all kinds of terms. Nibs and feeds and ebonite feeds and nib slits and fine, medium, broad, extra fine, double broad, stubs and italics and piston fillers and cartridge converters. There is a lot of terminology. So ask yourself what you want, but also understand that you're probably going to need some advice. And that advice can come from videos like people like me, right, who review fountain pens. But I don't know how many videos I have at this point, but I have a lot. So if you have to watch them all, it's a lot of work. Understand that there are very good resources. There are many people, for example, I think the channel of the Goulet Pen Company has been helpful to many people, because that's a channel that really explains a lot of the basics of fountain pens, some of the terminology, that kind of stuff. I have Consult the Doctor videos where I answer questions, and there's an index on my website. But doing something systematic to learn can be very helpful. One book that I always recommend, which is not super expensive, but it's a really nice, practical guide to fountain pens, is called Fountain Pens by Peter Twidle. That's Twidle with a Y and one D. Peter Twidle. It's a very good book that really explains the basics. How does a fountain pen work? What kind of filling systems do you have? How do you clean a pen? Like these kinds of things. Basic, very good information. Once you have mastered some of that information, once you have consumed that, you'll be in a better place. Excuse me, been a lot of talking today. You'll be in a better place to figure out what it is you want, right? Because then at least you know. You may really want a 21 karat gold nib, but that's going to be more expensive, right? Because it's gold, as opposed to, say, a steel nib. So that learning phase is really something I would invest some time and energy in. Make some effort to learn about that topic. And as I said, books are good. Goulet pen videos are good. There are many pen videos on YouTube. And there's also forums like FP Geeks or the Fountain Pen Network. Great forums, a lot of information there. Okay. Then try to figure out what you want. And that's very difficult. I can't give general advice, but I would say in the most general sense, how are you going to use that pen? Are you going to take it to school every day? Then maybe don't buy a $1,000 pen. Maybe that's not even within your budget. That's perfectly fine. I'll get back to that. But ask yourself what you want. Are you looking to buy a pen to impress business people? Well, then you probably need to buy a Mont Blanc, because That's what that brand rides on, and that's fine. This is not a value judgment. I'm just saying a lot of people in business have Mont Blancs for that reason, right? So consider what it is you want. Do you want something classic and toned down? Then a Mont Blanc may be a great option. An expensive one, but a great option. Black and gold, that kind of stuff, very classic. Do you want something very colorful? Well, then there is a host of people these days who make pens out of the most colorful acrylics. That can be a lot of fun. But ask yourself what the purpose is of what you are buying. The next question, or next bit of advice, I think is very important, and that is set a budget. When you start sliding down the slippery slope that is fountain pens, things can become really creepy really quickly, because when it comes to fountain pens, there is pretty much no limit to price. So you can buy a $10 pen, you can buy a $5 pen. If you really look around, you may be able to get a $2 pen on eBay somewhere. You can also buy a $200 pen, a $2,000 pen, a $20,000 pen, all the way up to infinity, pretty much. So that's another important thing to consider, right? What kind of budget am I looking for? And then look around. Look on pen sites. I have a number of sponsors on my website who would probably send me an angry letter if I don't mention them. Think of people like La Couronne du Comte, Appelboom, all the many others. Oh, come on, I'm mentioning all my sponsors, but there are, of course, I'm joking here, but there are, of course, many others. Depends on where you are as well. Goulet Pen Company in the US, Anderson Pens in the US, there is Wonder Pens and Ley Wines in Canada. There is, every country will have something. You just have to look around a bit, and again, use the forums to figure out what kind of pen companies there are close to where you are, for example. Okay. Look around, browse the websites. It's the nice thing of online shopping. You don't necessarily have to purchase anything, but it'll give you a bit of a feeling of what prices are like and what you like. That's a stupid sentence. What prices are like in the kind of pen that you are looking for, right? Again, I will come back to pricing. One other bit of advice that I have, and again, you can use the forums for this purpose. I'm just crossing off things on my list of topics, sorry. Go to pen clubs. You can find out if there's a local pen club where you live on forums. You can ask the question there. Sometimes they kind of advertise themselves. Go to pen shows. If you can, not everyone lives close to a pen show, but if you are in the US, there's a fairly good chance there is a pen show somewhere that you can reach. In Europe, there's a number of pen shows. In Asia, there's a number of pen shows. So in other words, you have options. May not be super achievable. I mean, I'm sure that if you just want to buy one fountain pen, you probably don't want to buy $1,000 plane ticket just to go to a pen show, and nor do I say that you should. The only advantage of pen clubs and pen shows is that you can try out pens. If you purchase online, you can't really try out a pen. If you go to a pen club where people meet, they typically bring a number of pens. At pen shows, people sell hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of pens, depending on how big the show is. And you can often try out things. Same thing goes for brick and mortar shops, but not everyone has access to a brick and mortar shop. If you do, absolutely go there, because that shop is more often than not run by experts, because it's a very niche market. They know what they're selling, they know what they're talking about, and they can often advise you on what might be good for you, for your size of handwriting. The finer the nib, smaller the handwriting, actually the other way around. The smaller the handwriting, the finer the nib you use, etc. But finer nibs can have more feedback, a little less smooth to use. So there are all kinds of considerations, right? But those kinds of shops, pen clubs, you'll find people who will appreciate you as a new pen user and who will often give you very good advice. That brings me to the point of know who to listen to. And that's an important one. Know whom to listen to. Know who you should listen to. Not my native language, people. What I mean by that is the following. I have, over the years, seen a number of times, online or face-to-face, mainly online, but sometimes face-to-face, that people can be very discouraging to new pen users. Most people in the pen community are super nice and helpful and kind and warm and are willing to assist you, but some people are very opinionated. You probably never notice that in the pen world. But let me tell you, some people are very opinionated, and that can lead to certain situations where someone may be told, well, unless you have a Mont Blanc, you're not really a pen lover. Or what you should really buy is a Pelikan M1000 because it's the greatest pen ever made. Everything else is terrible. That advice is not polite, not helpful, and can be very detrimental to people. Because what if you can't afford an M1000? Then you may get the feeling as a new user that then whatever you buy is going to be second rate, which is simply not true. Of course, people are entitled to have their opinions, but be a little sensitive to how you express that opinion, right? I've seen this a number of times, and it leads to painful situations. Like, well, you have these 5 pens, it's not bad, but they're all steel nibs, so I guess you don't really like pens because otherwise you would have at least one solid gold nib, right? It's pedantic, it's obnoxious, and it frankly doesn't help anyone. So I think there is nothing wrong with buying a Lamy Safari, which is a $25, $30 pen with a steel nib and a box of cartridges, and figuring out first if fountain pens are for you. Because what if it turns out that you spend $500, you save up money, you spend $500, maybe $1,000 on a pen, it's a disappointment to you because you expected more, and then you end up just selling that pen again or discarding it, whatever, and you don't really enjoy what you're doing. Start off with something that's affordable and then use that for a bit. And that's an important step as well. Experiment. See what is for you. Here I have a pen that was a gift. It's a Pilot Metropolitan. Simple pen, relatively affordable, but a nice, reliable pen. And that's very good. What you do have to understand, because this is kind of tied into this question that I get a lot. But what about a $500 pen? Is that not going to give me a much better writing experience? Well, in some ways, maybe. Yeah, it's probably going to have a gold nib, and a lot of people like that, although I've used steel nibs that outperform some gold nibs I've used. It may have an interesting filling system, a bit more fun than just a cartridge or a converter. But at the end of the day, you're also paying a lot more for a certain level of luxury or exclusivity, and that may not always translate one-to-one in a more exceptional writing experience. So be aware of that. Try something affordable, see how you like it, and if you really like it, maybe save up some money and buy something a bit more expensive next time if you want, right? That's important. And that's the phase of experimenting, and that's really what I meant by develop a feeling for whom to listen to and what people not to listen to. If people are trying to push you in a certain direction of, well, only this type of pen is good and everything else is second rate, maybe don't listen to them. Because it sounds like they're very opinionated and maybe biased, and that may just put you off the whole thing, which is truly unnecessary. And the final point I have, and that's one that I think fits in well with what I just said, is do not succumb to peer pressure. And it does happen because I've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. I've seen it happen at pen clubs. I've seen it happen at pen shows. I've seen it happen online. People get really pressured into buying certain things. Like, if you don't have a Pilot Custom 74, I don't know what to tell you. But maybe you don't like a Pilot Custom 74. Then don't buy it. That's okay. There are hundreds of different kinds and types and models and makes, brands, pen. And some will resonate with you and some will not, and that's fine. Maybe you like the classic models. Maybe you like the modern models. Maybe you only like black pens. Maybe you only like brightly colored pens. I recently had a meeting here with my friend Wacko Jacko, who came from quite far, so it was nice to see him. And he was talking about how he has a lot of really nice pens. He was talking about how he just doesn't like bright pens. That's okay. He's just wrong. But that's fine. I'm obviously joking here, right? But I mean, Jack is a very nice guy. He would never tell someone, well, if you only have multicolored pens, I don't know what's wrong with you. But some people do that, and then give someone the feeling that there's something wrong with them for liking that specific thing. That's fine. I know someone who loves rainbow colored pens. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let anyone tell you that that's wrong. Or my very dear friend Eric, he just loves hot pink. If he sees a hot pink pen, he has to buy it. Okay, go for it. It doesn't matter. Do what works for you. And we shouldn't forget how important that is, because part of the fun of a fountain pen is that it's a very personal thing, something that you can use to express yourself. I have some nice, very bright red pens. They cost an arm and a leg, but I'm very happy with them because I just love that material. And to some people, they're too gaudy, and that's fine. But I love them, so I don't really care, right? It's important to develop that mentality of listen to people who've been in this game for a while if they give you sensible advice. Like, for example, I understand this is your first pen, but maybe don't spend $6,500 on this one-of-a-kind Mont Blanc because I think it's a bit much, right? Or advice like, gold nibs are really nice. Why don't you try a steel nib first, just to see how you like it? I think that is sensible advice. And that advice comes from experience. But advice like, well, if it's not Mont Blanc, it's a piece of crap. That kind of advice is not helpful. I think I've made that point, so I'll move on. These were the basic bits of advice I have. I hope I have presented this in a coherent fashion. I hope this is something that may have been useful to you. I've tried to be as brief as I could be, and I'm happy to see it's only 17 minutes. I thought I would drone on for much longer, so I guess it's a personal victory. But I'm not really kidding. Please put in your advice for future fountain pen users, people who are new to the pen world, who want to get that advice, because I think it can be very helpful for them to read multiple viewpoints. Okay? That's it. Hope this was useful. Gladly see you later. Bye.